Welcome back to another chapter of me reading my book for people who don't like to read. This chapter is called Baseball. You weren't expecting that, were you? I know. Curveball. I couldn't resist. Okay. During many hours of viewing the 2024 baseball playoffs and eventually a World Series, it dawned on me that maybe my daily performance anxiety is completely overrated and unnecessary. I wasn't focused so much on the vast majority of players, but mostly just the role of the pitcher. Have there been studies? Oh God, another typo. Have there been studies been conducted on the long-term side effects of being a pro baseball pitcher? I wasn't planning on writing a whole essay derived from the sport of baseball, especially since I'm not a diehard fan. It began with me just simply trying to write a joke about my thoughts on pitchers after hours of indulgent sports watching during a 7-day work week in Las Vegas. Around day 4, I found myself becoming more and more concerned about these fastball heaving mortals' mental health. Let me say that again. Around day 4, I found myself becoming more and more concerned about these fastball heaving mortals' mental health. Then, just one day before the World Series began, the legendary Dodgers pitcher Fernando Valenzuela died, which compounded my already suspected intuition of the possibility of long-term, high-pressured ball-throwing induced deterioration. Well, that was a sentence. Being that I don't follow the sport too closely, I would normally not be so familiar with a pitcher from the 1980s, but I grew up in Los Angeles County, and I am pretty sure my brother had a poster of Valenzuela on our shared childhood bedroom wall, right next to Steve Garvey, whom I believe is a politician now. Because that's what happens to the privileged and pampered lifestyle of the first base players. Pitchers, on the other hand. Fernando Valenzuela died at the young age of 64. Do we even know the long-term effects of this type of nationally viewed stress? PTSD and nightmares from the pressure to hit that elusive diamond-shaped baseball mound G-spot? The range he has to throw the ball in is like an advanced trigonometry test. Don't throw outside the strike box or it's a ball, and if you throw too many of those, the batter gets a free walk to first base. But also, don't throw the ball too perfectly down the strike line, because that makes it easier for the batter to hit and could possibly result in a home run, and then you are in big trouble and could be reprimanded, asked to leave your highly regarded position and return to the dugout, forbidden to throw another ball for the remainder of the ball game. If you could just toss a perfect strike at a speed faster than someone with just a slight lazy eye can follow, but make sure it takes a sudden slight curve either left or right or down right before it gets to the batter's swinging wood. If you could, but make it veer just a few millimeters off course, we'd give you a solid thumbs up. So basically, throw a 90 to 100 mile an hour, perfect but imperfect ball. Not to mention the danger they face in being just 60 feet away from an extreme... I didn't research the feet, so don't correct me if that's wrong. I guessed. Not to mention the danger of being just some amount of feet away from an extremely strong, desperate man who'd give anything to score, possibly slamming a ball straight down the line to the face of the man who is still physically recovering from the release of said ball. Imagine the resentment these guys must have as they turn around to see all the rest of their teammates relaxing in the freshly cut grass in midday sun, just chilling in the field, blowing bubble yum bubbles and sucking on salty seeds while scouting stadium bleacher seat boobs. And if he messes up, he's out of the game. I guess I'm talking about the pitcher there. Even though every other player gets multiple chances at bat, even if they strike out or miss an easy catch on the field. But this poor ball-slinging gentleman gets publicly reprimanded and humiliated for giving up a few bad throws. And why is it such a production to get them out of the game? Every other sport, the coach just waves the player out of the game and he complies without question. But with baseball, the team coach, pitching coach, and for some reason the catcher, not sure why he's involved, have to go and physically remove the pitcher from the mound. They don't just wave him to the dugout and summons him to leave, but instead walk out in a group of 3 to the mound and publicly humiliate him by physically taking the ball out of his hand like a child, as if they don't trust him to walk his own ball back to the dugout. Are they afraid he may snap from the mounting tension and just unleash the ball at his nearest opponent in an act of wild abandonment? Is there any empathy for the amount of pressure these poor souls endure year after year? It's almost as brutal as the humiliation of the kicker in football who is left alone to make the winning kick and save the day for the whole team, only to fail and have to face his comrades in the locker room afterward. I'd never be able to handle that level of shame. Oh, I shouldn't call it shame. That's not nice. If it was me, I'd be like, I'll just shower when I get home. Thanks. But Jen, it's a 5-hour flight to Los Angeles. I'm fine. Just douse me with some Febreze and seat me next to the bathroom. Kudos to the brave and strong-minded individuals who work so hard not only to fulfill their own dreams, but allow us to live vicariously through them in celebration. And no, I'm not going to congratulate the Dodgers. I am by birth an LA girl, but lived many years in New York, and that is where my heart beats. Aw. I like the Dodgers too, though. I know its season spans over more than half the year, which I guess in turn means over half of our lifetimes. But I don't bother to even peek at a baseball game till the playoffs begin. Why would I? Boring. Sorry to the avid baseball fans out there, but if I'm going to commit my loyalty, waking hours, and allegiance to a team of husky males for a good majority of my time still breathing, I would need a little more action and a lot more leg. Give me some skin, MLB. That's Major League Baseball, in case you don't know. Those leggings are quite unappealing. I get it. They need them to slide, and from what I've witnessed, apparently a pitcher needs either a mullet or awkwardly heavy cross in order to drive home a good fastball. If it were up to me, all athletes would be required to wear those tight little crop shorts, just like Larry Bird and most of the NBA used to sport in the early 80s. And before you judge me, I know there is only one reason men tune in to watch women's beach volleyball. How the marketing departments have not yet figured out sports are soft porn for middle-aged women is a mystery to me. But a visual sex appeal was not my motivation when I first began writing this piece. Playoffs, the Yankees. Okay, I wrote this when they were in the playoffs. It's a little outdated. It's been many years since I took in a Yankee game, but seeing those blue pinstripe uniforms brought back so many old buried memories. When I was younger and just beginning adulthood, I lived in New York for 9 years, basically all of my 20s, which is where I met Dave, a diehard Yankee fan, and my first introduction to actual, real, deep love. So I thought. Although prior to that, I did have my first serious year-long relationship. Kevin, he was adorable and gentle, but I don't recall passionate and intense feelings. Just an introduction to sex and a lot of getting buzzed on $2.99 Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill wine, in his parents' garage. I was going to say, my parents. To hang out in his parents' garage. We broke up after both entering community college, where he met and cheated on me with an easygoing, long-haired hippie girl who smoked Marlboro Reds. I'd be mad, except she was so naturally pretty and cool, while I was insecure, lost, and anxiety-ridden. So basically, nothing has changed. And they ended up getting married years later, so truly a happy ending. How could I be mad? But back to Yankee Dave. I met Dave when I was working at a cafe in Midtown Manhattan. He worked at the bar right next door where my late-night coworkers and I would go after getting off work at 1 a.m. The bars in Manhattan stayed open till 4 a.m. I promise, this was not my reason for moving there. But after 9-hour shifts, hustling for tips late night in the restaurant business, it definitely turned out to be a fun perk. I first kissed Dave around late June. This is supposed to be an article about pictures. Now I'm talking about boys. I first kissed Dave around late June. The love affair only lasted a little over 3 months. But being it was during baseball season, and he was a diehard Yankee fan who never missed a game, a lot of our dates were at Yankee Stadium. I loved it. What is better than beer, peanuts, and fellow sport-loving camaraderie with strangers? All while in the midst of falling in love and waking up the next morning with no adult life commitments except going to eat syrupy New York City diner pancakes. With all the madness in the current world, I'd hate to be in my 20s now. but back in the late 90s, early 2000s, with no social media and only a pager and public payphones on street corners as a means of communication. It was a glorious time to be free and roaming the great city of Manhattan. I fell in love with Dave quickly. It was glorious. Then the playoffs came around. The Yankees lost, and so did I. He broke up with me the night they got disqualified. Complete blindside that I did not see coming. You can see why I hesitate to support the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. The next day I called my mom sobbing. It was 1997, and her first response was, "Oh my God, do you have AIDS?" What the fuck? What exactly did she think I was doing on the East Coast? I said the bars were open till 4 a.m., not your daughter. My mother jumps to the worst outcome in any big or seemingly small crisis. It's not her fault. She grew up on racism, bad pot, and black and white television. This new colorful world can be quite overwhelming to such a sheltered soul. Luckily, I am still disease-free. Happy to announce that after 1 or 2 heartbroken years in my 20s, I'm now once again able to support the great Yankees. And Kevin is still married, with some children, from what I hear. It all works out as God, the universe planned, guys. At least that's what I am told and have chosen to subscribe to in order to keep my heart beating and fingers typing every day. And of course, a huge shout out to sports for keeping this middle-aged heart aroused. If you'd like to buy my book, it's on Amazon. Or just keep watching the videos because they're fun.